Hi, I'm Barry Ostrowski. At Barnabas Health, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support healthcare programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners on public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Steve and Elaine Pozicki, activists in cooperation with the American Medicine Chest Challenge. Barnabas Health, life is better healthy. Investors Bank. NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey. And by New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. And by Commerce Magazine.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We're here at the Mental Health Association of New Jersey's 16th annual fundraiser. It's called An Evening of Excellence. We'll be talking to a whole range of experts in just a few minutes, people who have come tonight to talk about the connection between mental health and substance abuse. We're talking about recovery, hope, talking to people who've actually been through it themselves, people who have struggled, people who've gone through it, come out the other end, and are trying to talk about an issue that, frankly, not a lot of people want to talk about. Still a lot of stigma connected to substance abuse, but it has to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. So the folks you're about to meet, the folks I'm about to interview, have a lot to say, things you need to listen to, we all need to listen to in New Jersey and in the tri-state region. The Mental Health Association of New Jersey is doing this work every day. It's important. It affects all of us, rich and poor, younger folks, older folks, in every community. And it's a very important half hour. You're going to want to check it out. Carolyn, talk about tonight, what's happening, who we're honoring, and why it's so special.
This is our annual Evening of Excellence. We use this as an opportunity to educate. We invite people from across the state to join us. It's also a fundraiser for us. And we like to update people on all the latest policy issues, program issues that we're involved in. Tonight is special because we're focusing on opiate abuse.
Yeah, we're going to be having, as I said, a panel discussion a little bit later with Carolyn and four others who are very intimately involved in these issues and try to not just ask tough questions, but provide some important answers. Talk about the accomplishments that the association has achieved in the past year and why it's so significant for the audience watching in the tri-state region.
I would say we'll be hearing tonight about some of the program initiatives that we've really done very well in. So I think I'll say our work has continued with Superstorm Sandy, helping people adapt and helping them case manage to get the services they need. We're doing a lot of training around mental health first aid. But significantly, we have seen integrated health care and managed care as two major policy pieces that we've been working on from our national level to the state level to the local level to try to see if we can't change policy directions, help drive policy to the best kind of integrated physical, mental, and substance abuse care that we can possibly deliver.
Following up on the whole substance abuse issue, tonight, big focus, that is our focus tonight. Lots of success, long way to go, but talk about some of the progress there. We've talked about it before, but the New Jersey Connect for Recovery call line, it's huge.
You know, before we started this call line, what we were hearing was that people, particularly family members, were desperate to find somebody to help them, somebody to advise them. They were in crisis because they knew that their young person or someone in their family was using drugs. They didn't know where to turn. It is an illegal issue when you're dealing with heroin. Prescription drugs, when they're not your own prescription drugs, are also illegal. So they're conflicted. They don't know what to do. And people who themselves are addicted are wanting to speak to someone but not wanting to be pushed necessarily into treatment. So as we designed this, we tried to meet those needs. And what we're finding we have two different lines, and it's about half and half. Half of the people who call are family members, and what we're finding is they're being supported by our staff. They're being supported in ways where we simply want to listen and hear how they're doing and find out what their concerns are. And what we're hearing over and over again is, no one has helped us with this. No one has really listened or asked me how I was. And it helps them be able to step back a bit, get a feel for what their options are. They can call back repeatedly, and we know that families are desperate in these times. We're dealing with death here. They know that. They're terrified, and they desperately need a helping ear. We're providing that, and then we help guide them in terms of what their
Services.
options are to serve.
This is a unique service.
Yes, yes. There's nothing quite like it. We do have information and referral on other lines, but with our line, we provide counseling. So if someone calls us who's addicted and they haven't quite decided what they want to do, we will spend time with them counseling, talking, listening, helping them decide what their next steps might be. And it's not just one phone call. People can call back repeatedly. They can talk to us repeatedly. We're not in a rush. We're not trying to push them into something. We're trying to help them come to the decision. There's a much better chance for recovery if people really want to make that decision.
We're here with Stephanie Mulfinger, who is the Director of Call Center Services, the Mental Health Association of New Jersey. Stephanie, let me ask you, the connection between mental health and those who are struggling with addiction. Talk about that connection.
That's a great question, Steve. Thanks. There's a crisis with opiate addiction in New Jersey. People are dying, and New Jersey Connect for Recovery can be a lifeline. Now, why is it important to understand mental health? First, I think it's important to know that people who are struggling with addiction are twice as likely to experience anxiety and depression, 3 times as likely to experience suicidal ideation. So you can't look at these things in a vacuum.
Talk about that recovery line. What is it and why is it so important?
Sure. How can New Jersey Connect for Recovery help these folks struggling with both addiction and mental health? The line is part of our statewide nationally accredited call center at the Mental Health Association in New Jersey. We have a staff of certified alcohol and drug counselors, as well as trained family peer specialists who know about the anguish of addiction in the family. They have access to a database of 3,000 resources, so they can help these families put the pieces back together of everything that's affecting them, individuals and families. It could be the addiction, it could be the mental health issue, it can be family relationships. Because what they found is that when someone stops using, these other risks and symptoms don't always go away.
How exactly do you help?
We provide a lot of services. We provide support, counseling, information, connection, follow-up services all over the phone on a toll-free number. That's 855-652-3737.
Can you do it again?
855-652-3737. Anyone in New Jersey can call noon to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. And it's really wraparound. We use the word recovery because treatment, people think about treatment, that's a part of recovery, but recovery really starts with that first questioning and goes all the way to achieving sobriety and maintaining it. So again, individuals and families on that whole spectrum.
We're here with Darren Prince, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Prince Marketing Group. Your story, your experience is a powerful one, isn't it?
Yep, very much. I was an opiate addict for many years, probably 20 plus years of my life, more than half my life. And what started out to accelerate my success in business ultimately became my downfall. Like any other substance, it turned on me and took me to my knees.
Darren, let me ask you, opiate misuse. For many, there are different reasons why it starts and continues. Why for you, and why do you think for so many?
At first, for me, it started when I was a teenager, experimenting, and insecurities, not feeling confident with myself, not feeling comfortable in my own skin, made me feel like Superman. I chased that feeling for many, many years. Then I miraculously, somehow, with the right people, got involved in the entertainment industry with some enormous global superstars, and again, the uncomfortability being around these people, even though from the outside I appeared okay, I couldn't do it without numbing myself, being around the environment, this world that most people see on television or movies. And it took me, like I said, it worked for a while, and then eventually just took me to my knees, and I realized I had to make a change. I wanted to do something about it.
Talk about your company and the great success you've experienced.
We have a great team of people in my office that help me all the time. Steve Simon, Chris Volo, Nick Cordasco, and we have amazing clients that...
Some great clients, don't you?
Family. Yeah, Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Dennis Rodman, Joe Montana, Roy Jones Jr.
What's the matter? Couldn't get any big names?
local guys, you know. But, you know, it's a beautiful thing because I also, I'm on the board of directors for Turning Point, you know, our mutual friend Steve Delaval. And
great guy.
The past 4 years, the late smoking Joe Frazier, who I miss very dearly, was a client for 16 years. He came and got honored. Dennis Rodman came. Magic Johnson flew in 2 years ago, raised a couple $100,000, and Chris Herring came this year. So,
what a great guy. Interviewed Chris. We interviewed Chris Herring in our one-on-one program, and what an extraordinary guy. What a powerful message. Great basketball player with the Celtics. What a career, what a story, and what a message.
Amazing message, and he gets it. I mean, it's about giving back. He's a game changer. What Chris does, 4 or 5 days a week, he's on the road speaking at schools and educating children and trying to make that difference. I mean, his story is just remarkable. And ironically enough, we got introduced by a mutual friend, and he got sober about 25 days after I did, back in 2008. So we have quite a bit in common.
What would you say to the folks at the Mental Health Association in New Jersey and the work they're doing?
We can't thank you guys enough. I mean, they obviously know there's hope out there for these people, and it's incredibly invaluable. And you're not just changing the lives of the person suffering, but the friends, the family, and the loved ones around them. So thank you very much.
We're here with Don Hebert, who is the Community Outreach Coordinator of New Jersey Connect for Recovery. Just let everyone know what that is again.
Steve, New Jersey Connect for Recovery is a free phone number that anyone can call who's either affected directly or indirectly by opiates and heroin.
You know, Don, what I'm really curious about is, we've been talking about this more and more, is how many young people are getting access. Let's just talk about access to painkillers, painkiller medication. What's going on and why?
Well, I found this to be very interesting. This is what we learned from our law enforcement partners, is that older people are underutilizing their pain medication. People are living longer with chronic pain. So when kids as young as 5th grade, 4th grade visit grandma and grandpa, they steal it right out of their medicine chests. And they have these pharma parties where they don't know what they're taking, they don't know how much to take, and 2 tragic things happen. One, some of them are overdosing immediately, while others develop a dependency right off the get-go.
Don, to what degree do you really feel that most in society, in New Jersey, let's say for now, think that somehow we're immune to this?
There's a lot of stigmas, Steve, and one of those stigmas is not in my backyard, not my son, not in my community. I was speaking with a rabbi recently, and he said, we have high-quality people here. And I said, with all due respect, Rabbi, it's not a matter of high quality, low quality, bad, good. It's an illness, it's a disease, it's an epidemic. It's a disease of the brain. See, what happens is the brain actually changes. And if we break an arm and put a cast on, once that cast comes off, the elasticity is going to restore those muscles. Not so with the brain. The brain never goes back to being exactly the way it was.
Don, why is tonight so important?
Tonight's so important because we need to get the word out. I always say you can do like no one else can. Every one of us can refer our line. If one person hears about it, we could save a life.
Senator, why is an event like this so special, so important?
I was bringing all the providers, all the interest groups together that care about this, from supportive housing to addiction services to advocates like Mental Health Association who do a tremendous job. Not just here of advocacy, but actually getting good policy pushed forward and representing the people that need the help the most, that are overlooked largely.
Yeah, the senator has introduced when he was on Capitol Report, we were one of the first programs to sit down with him. He introduced a 21-bill package in the legislature, the most comprehensive effort to deal with drug-related issues on every level. Talk about the bills that deal directly with the issues we're dealing with tonight and where they are.
Sure. Well, the governor signed 5 so far out of the 21, and we're hopeful that by the end of this session in June, the end of June, we'll have most of them wrapped up and on his desk and his support. He's been great on the issue from the very beginning. But about 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to address what the CDC calls America's #1 public health crisis, which is addiction. Addiction to opiates, painkillers, heroin. And so it is that we sat down with experts like the association, other providers, parents, other groups who get this issue, to really develop a policy that's comprehensive. So it's education, it's treatment, it's prevention, and it's recovery. So all 4 of those elements together. Because if you do just one, it's good for that particular issue, whether it's prevention. But if we don't deal with it holistically and comprehensively, we won't take a big bite out of it. And so we have, well, those 21 bills address all those issues from A to Z. Not everything, we'll probably find something else to do next year, but this really takes a big bite out of the issue and it advances the policy. We think that it's going to do a lot to really roll back the stigma of addiction. And in that way, we also get serious about treating addiction like a disease, like every other disease. Heart disease, cancer, addiction, they're all the same.
Steve, great to see you tonight. Why is tonight so special?
Well, I'm here to help them and their new hotline that they kicked off. I thought it was a great idea because all in all, it's one addict helping another. That's how we help each other. And to my knowledge, people don't know where to go. They have a kid that's having problems. They have a brother, a mother. They don't know where to turn. So now they have a place to call, somebody to direct them, where to go, who to see, what places they should go to. It's just a great idea, and I'm glad I could help.
Well, Steve's being modest. We grew up in the same neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey. Let's just say, I don't care what neighborhood you're in, it can happen anywhere, but Steve Della Valle had an extraordinary story and experience, and he dealt with a lot of challenges, and he wrote about it in his book. Why did you, Steve, write the book that you wrote about the years that you struggled with the challenges that you did related to drugs? Why did you write that book, and what were you trying to accomplish?
Well, I wanted everyone to know that you could go to hell like I did, make it back, and become part of society again and help others. I just wanted them to know that it could be done because the success rate is so little as far as drug addiction and alcoholism. I wanted people to just see, I did it, you could do it.
I'm curious about this. What's it like for you, given everything you've been through, to know when you actually do help someone deal with this extraordinary challenge?
Steve, I get emails from people that I have no idea who they are, thanking me. I got one Christmas time from somebody that said, "Thank you for giving me my son back." And I really didn't do anything but write that book and tell them where I was at one time and where I am today. I celebrate 27 years sobriety. I should be dead. I lived 27 years longer than I should have, and you know that. So,
thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
We're here with Morgan Thompson, who is a recovery mentor at Raymond Lesniak ESH Recovery High School. By the way, will you explain the name of that high school?
So Raymond J. Lesniak was the senator from New Jersey.
Still is,
right?
We just had him on the show last week. He will want to make sure everyone knows he's still the state senator from Union County.
Still is, and he has been instrumental in making the school a possibility. So we named the school for him, as he was a real champion of our cause. And the ESH stands for Experience, Strength, and Hope, which is what we try to provide to our students.
What goes on there?
So my role is a recovery mentor. So I work with the students on just how to learn to have fun again in recovery, how to enjoy their lives without drugs and alcohol. Obviously, a lot of educating goes on, in addition to wellness and counseling services, but not treatment-oriented counseling services, more relapse prevention.
Now, the students there are all dealing with what?
Dealing with early recovery, which is a very challenging time. They're dealing with learning how to cope with feelings and emotions, learning how to be in a school setting again. For a lot of them, school was not part of the picture when they were using, and so this is really new for them to be in school and to be clean and sober and learning how to just take it day by day.
You understand this on a lot of levels, don't you?
I'm in recovery myself. I've been in recovery since I was 18. I'm 25 now, so just about 6 years.
That experience of being in recovery, how helpful is that to you and being helpful to others?
I don't think I would be able to empathize the way I do. I wouldn't be able to provide the insight that I can because I know what they're going through for the most part. I've been there, and while the situations might look a little different on the outside, a lot of the feelings are the same.
Well, let me ask you a question. A night like this, we're at the Mental Health Association of New Jersey. It's their annual fundraiser. But beyond that, we're dealing with a whole range of important issues dealing with opiate addiction, heroin addiction. Why is a night like this important?
Well, it's important for us to really recognize all the people that have worked with us, our many volunteers, to take a look back at the past year and see the accomplishments we were able to achieve, and also look ahead to the challenges we have in the future. We do have many challenges. The other thing that's developed, which is very interesting in the last couple of years, we've become the go-to people for disaster relief for people's behavioral health needs. So we were up there with Superstorm Sandy. We recruited and trained literally hundreds of workers to serve thousands of individuals in the affected areas in the state.
Helping in what way? Describe that, Bill.
Well, connecting up with the counseling, the support, the medications they need, doing what we call case management, just being there for them.
And finally, tonight, Bill, the issues we're dealing with tonight, addiction-related issues. Do you think a lot of people underestimate the severity of this problem?
I really think they do. I mean, everyone knows that this has been a problem for a long time, but what they don't know is that there's been a very serious escalation of deaths from overdoses from opiate drugs, including heroin and prescription painkillers. We got involved in this, even though we normally in the past hadn't gotten involved directly with substance abuse. We realized that many people with mental illness don't have that alone. They have a co-occurring substance abuse issue. And two, is this epidemic is very serious. I think for opiates alone, the last year we counted in 2013, there were over 600 overdose deaths in New Jersey. There seems to be a locus of this in Ocean County and several other places.
We have any idea why that is?
Not yet, but the numbers are very telling when you look at the distribution about the state. So many times, if that person had an individual to speak to, a peer that had been there before, or a licensed counselor that could connect them. Also, families go through all kinds of trauma when a loved one gets affected by this problem. So we have a peer line. We have
Connect for Recovery.
Connect for Recovery is in one part of it is a peer line. So if you're a mom or a dad and your child appears to be addicted, we have people that have been there, that are family members of loved ones that'll give advice, give direction, give counseling, give support.
We're here with our good friend Bill Murray, Executive Vice President and National Director, MWWPR, and also the Board Vice Chair of the Mental Health Association of New Jersey. Bill, a night like this, celebrating, recognizing those who are making such a difference in the field of mental health, but also dealing with opiate, heroin, painkiller-related addiction problems, substance abuse. Why is a night like this so important?
Well, look, I'm proud to be part of this organization. Not just because of what it accomplishes, but because of the environment in which it accomplishes it. People more readily get on public television and talk about foot fungus than they would admit that a relative of theirs has a mental illness.
Why is that?
It's a stigma. It's absolute stigma. It's how we deal with it, and not just in this society, not just in New Jersey, not just in the U.S., but broader throughout the world. Mental illness has a stigma, has a fear factor that people just don't understand. So that's why we see in situations, like, primarily when we're talking about mental illness on TV or in the media, it's usually in a situation where it's a perpetrator committed a heinous crime. We just saw this recently with the airline disaster overseas. That's what people hear about. That's what people think about when they hear about mental illness.
But that's not the kind of mental illness that most people are dealing with and struggling with, and families are dealing with and struggling with.
Absolutely. You could have a mental illness. I could have a mental illness. You know, it's interesting, it's our reaction to it. We saw in this state's a very progressive state. We saw very progressive members of the Assembly and the Senate react to some situations where people had committed a violent crime by wanting to further that stigma by literally identifying them. People identifying themselves on their driver's license, on their personal IDs. I wanted to wait for the Scarlet M. I thought that was coming out. That's the issue. That's what we face. It's a fear factor. You know, it's interesting. If you represent people with disabilities, a physical disability, they'll parade out the children, you parade out people, and you get the empathy and the sympathy. Not so in the mental health community.
Is it changing at all?
Yes, through organizations like the Mental Health Association, through the efforts of the Mental Health Association. You know, it's interesting. We just saw this last 2 days. The lead singer of Creed, major rock band, well known. He's talked about his drug addiction and his alcoholism for more than a decade. He just found out he was diagnosed with bipolar. And it was interesting, he said in the interview and on television and has tweeted this and used other social media platforms to discuss it, he had to come to grips with that himself. He could discuss his alcoholism and his drug addiction publicly for 10 years, but had to fight with himself to admit that he had bipolar. Now, most of that goes hand in hand. But yeah, we're seeing a change. We're seeing a rock star come out and say, I'm bipolar. I mean, I have to say this. I've been involved in this organization for about 23 years, one way or another. We helped on a housing referendum about 23, 24 years ago. That's where I met this insane advocate for people with mental illness, and that was Carolyn Beauchamp, and she's still the CEO of the organization today. And about 10 years ago, I rejoined the board. And what's interesting is I had the same thought. That could be you, that could be me. But I like the challenge. I like the interesting part of what they faced and what they needed to overcome on the stigma. What's interesting, though, serendipitous in the last 10 years is my wife's family had people with mental illness. And I knew so much from being part of this organization, but we also recognized it and understood it. Within the last 4 years, one of my own children has developed a mental illness. And she's heroic, she's beautiful, she's a genius, but the stigma's there. And she has difficulty talking about it or admitting it, but it is changing. And what's interesting is many of her friends have talked to her because they also either have bipolar or some other disease.
And they're more supportive than they might have been 10, 15 years ago?
15 years ago. I mean, think about it. I was born and raised in a blue-collar Irish family, and I love it, and I learned a lot from that. But God, if I had a mental illness growing up in that family...
You think Italians were any different?
No, I know your pain. My wife's Italian. So.
My wife's Irish.
Oh, there we go. Twins at birth, right? Yeah. But the issue is that it would have been walk it off. It's like when you got injured or anything in the sports, walk it off, have a drink. I mean, Irish was have a drink, bear through it. It's not about bearing through it. It's about addressing it. It's about admitting that you have a mental illness and embracing it. Again, the empathy and the sympathy is not there. We have a fear factor here in our country, in this state, but in the world. I see it changing, but it's a never-ending battle. That's the advantage to having an organization like Mental Health Association. That's why I'm proud, because you can't just say, I won this battle today. You're battling it in every new individual and every new generation.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Steve and Elaine Pozicki, activists in cooperation with the American Medicine Chest Challenge, Barnabas Health, Investors Bank, NJIT, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by New Jersey Sharing Network. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.